Hi guys, welcome to our inaugural edition of HiDefHistory. I'm so glad you're joining with me as we're going to explore the world of Assassin's Creed Origins. And the internet is just all over about the fact that this is an incredible world that has so much detail put in it, and I wanted to take a chance to sort of bring you into select parts of that world and kind of go in some of the historical background of the work that was actually done in putting all of this together for us to look at. So we're going to be starting a new game today because I wanted to show you guys some of the historical details and tidbits that are in the very opening scene of Bayek's journey. So let's get started.
Right into the Animus. All right.
Say this is there's no need for them to.
So do they not do an introductory scene in this one where you kind of are introduced to the concept of the Animus then?
No.
Oh, all right then. I guess they figure we've got it now.
Yeah, 10 years into the game, they're kind of figure we know what's going on.
Oh my gosh, is it really 10 years? Wow.
Okay. Just in case you were wondering, yes, Egypt is a desert. It's that kind of analysis that you come to Infinite Lives for.
There are elephants. Ooh, is that Sanu?
It's an eagle. I'm assuming it's Sanu.
I'm going to pretend it's Sanu. It's actually really cool to see all the statues colorized, since they were so colorful initially, but, I mean, sand and time have worn it away.
Yeah, a lot of the stuff that we think of as classical looks, whether it's marble or the sandstone sculptures in Egypt with all the temples, we think of them as they are today without realizing that these guys, they painted everything. They were just like, why would I look at a stone when I could paint it any color I wanted? Okay, we're going to be introduced here to one of the villains of the game. He's coming down here. He's riding the elephant. One of the things here that you kind of have to realize is that watch everybody genuflect. You're going to see people bowing and kneeling and kind of averting their eyes in the presence of Ptolemy here. And yet, direct eye contact right there. That's a big no-no in Egyptian society, given the Pharaoh status as a divine god. So here we are. We're going to get started on Bayek's adventure.
You are the Magi from Siwa. I thought Magi was supposed to protect the Pharaoh. I am Magi to no Pharaoh. You see this? I can read my own name, Nat.
So were Magi's like the secret service of the time, or?
We will find you.
The Magi are an interesting group.
Ooh, that was impressive.
Reflexes.
Sleep. I never sleep. I just wait in the shadows, and I will kill you all. Everyone who sniffed the air that day in Siwa.
Whoa.
Yeah, so clearly Bayek is not sort of our, like some of the previous heroes in Assassin's Creed who didn't show a whole lot of emotion as they went about their business. This guy is definitely on a quest for vengeance, and we're going to be finding out more. Alright, so this fellow right here, he is really interesting. Alright, so I want you to take a quick look at his headdress.
You killed my master.
What that...
For dead. That was a mistake.
Your master was a murderer.
I'll have your luck. I am his sworn bodyguard. It is a question of honor.
I am the Magi of Siwa.
Then you are a worthy opponent.
Okay, so you see the helmet on his head. This guy is a clear sort of homage to some of the gladiatorial style armor and equipment that was popular in Roman times. Oh.
Whoa.
And things are happening.
Oh, I thought he did that.
Well,
Like-
he hit the ground and it caused the roof to collapse.
Well, he must be a large dude.
Oh, yeah, he pretty clearly is. Okay, so see the sword right there in the foreground of the picture? And that's one of the first interesting details that I kind of was looking at in here. So notice the shape of it, how it is straight edges leading to a single point. What that is sort of indicative of is that it's a weapon.
Let us continue.
Oh, there we go.
Nothing what I
A weapon designed for thrusting.
Of honor. It is a fight to the death.
So be it.
And so why that matters here is because if you notice, as I try not to get killed here, is that Bayek here does not really thrust. Like most of his attack animations are like of a slashing. Oh, there's a little thrust stab right there. Timed it right. Of a slashing motion, which is really not what this is designed to do.
You know, he likes to forge his own path. Doesn't want to be stuck with what the designers intended, you know?
Oh, there we go. I want to end this. There's no reason to, prolong these things anymore.
This awaits you.
Okay.
And look, he's doing it with, like, very little armor here compared to that guy.
Yeah, definitely a character sort of predicated on the idea of not being somewhere to get hit. So dodge is very important. Although, one of the really great things about the combat system in this game is the ability to change up your weapon style. So if you're someone who'd rather have like the heavier, slower weapons, you're really that you can make that play style work for you.
No footholds.
So
You need to find a way into another room.
what we're looking at here then is, let me bring up real quick, is his gear. And look at this. So it's a Philistine mercenary, and like that was something that I thought was like super interesting, because why are we carrying this weapon here? And the couple things I wanted to make a note about that is that the Philistines are probably familiar to most people because of their presence in the Bible for the Christianity. And so you hear about them in the story of David and Goliath. Goliath was a Philistine. And it turns out that in the history of Egypt and the Philistines also were engaged in several wars around the 1200 BC era. And the Philistines, there's conflicting thoughts on it from people who study it. They either settled in the Canaan area to fight the Israelites as vassals of the Egyptians, or they beat the Egyptians in battle and took that land in Canaan for themselves. So I thought it was really kind of cool that they have here those kind of little tidbits that they have put in here. And the other thing is, if you look at the title here for Bronze Sword, I thought that was weird because the timing of this game is set in like the 40-50 BC era, which is, well within Iron Age weapons. Like that should be, like, if you're going to get something that is effective, it should be iron. Why would an Egyptian soldier here be fighting with a bronze sword, which, while effective in its own way, is clearly, inferior to the same weapon made out of iron? And it turns out that Egypt actually has a very limited supply of iron. There is no iron along the Nile River or anywhere in its delta. So they have to bring in all of their iron resources from elsewhere. And one of the reasons the Philistines were able to defeat the Egyptians is because these swords that they used were made of iron. And yet here he is carrying a copy of that kind of weapon, but made of bronze, because as an Egyptian, he doesn't have access to that superior metal. It just really goes to show you like a lot of the really cool things that they do to try and get us involved in this game. There he is. The headdress, usually kind of a sign of a centurion or an officer in the Roman army. And the reason you're going to see a lot of combination of Roman values in here is because Ptolemaic Egypt is actually a Greek state that is dealing with a growing Roman influence. And we're going to be talking a lot more about kind of the politics behind what's happening there and all that kind of stuff. There we go. And let's just right through here. Hope no one's squeamish about bugs.
I am.
Just as long as they're not flying towards you, we'll be fine.
I can't help but think of that scene in The Mummy where that guy is trapped underground and one of the scarabs like eats his brain. That's all I thought about.
Yeah, that's exactly, and that's it. That's exactly what's happening here.
That's completely historical, right?
Oh yeah, totally. I'm pretty sure it's. All right, come on. There we go. All right, so we got our torch. We're going to do a little bit of exploring. One of the really cool things that you want to notice as you go through here is that we're entering an area that is pretty clearly in ruins. You see a lot of ruins in this game, which is weird to think about considering that this is 2,000 years ago. But I think people who don't really study or know a lot about Egypt, they kind of don't understand that there is a huge breadth of time in which Egypt operates as a major political power in the world. In fact, from the time of the first pyramids to the time of Bag's adventure here in the right around the end of the BCE and the beginning of the Common Era, that's a longer span of time than from here to where we are now. So there are thousands of years of history that he's already having to kind of go through. Anyways, I want to pause here because I wanted to show you a couple kind of interesting things when we're looking at these guys. All right, so this is a statue floating around here, and one of the first things that struck me with it is that it was of a pharaoh, obviously, because you look at it and you say, oh, I see the sort of royal headdress on there. Clearly, this represents one of the leaders of Egypt from however long ago. But then as I looked at it, I said to myself, oh, wait a second. Why does that pharaoh have breasts? Because obviously pharaohs were almost always male figures. Now, there were a few female pharaohs in Egyptian history. However, they almost always presented themselves, both in statues and in hieroglyphics and in their tombs, as male figures. Because something about being pharaoh meant you had to project that masculine image, even though everybody knew that they weren't actually men. So when you look at this here, though, and you think, why would there be a statue of a woman with breasts and a pharaoh's headdress? That just doesn't make a whole lot of sense. But when you start looking at what's happening in this, and you notice that these guys are actually probably a reference to a specific dynasty in Egyptian history led by a man named Akhenaten. Akhenaten is kind of infamous in Egyptian history for reasons we're not really going to get into. But he was somebody that when you look at pictures of him in his hieroglyphics, here's a man, he had children, and yet they always drew him as someone having both breasts and extremely large buttocks. And it's a weird thing to do to a man, especially when it's the pharaoh. You know, this is the god present in your society. And so why did that happen? Well, there's a couple possible reasons that they were thinking of. We were imagining that there was theorizing that there is a genetic disorder that became common in the Egyptian royal family that caused female hormones to become more present and would make male members actually display female traits as they enter puberty. All right, so that's enough about the boobs. I just thought that was really interesting. Not, just me. I know. So we're looking at this. So when we're looking at these guys, though, this is Horus. And Horus is a major figure in the Egyptian pantheon. He is represented by people, any godlike figures with the head of a falcon on it. That is Horus. And I don't think it's a coincidence that one of Bayek's, companions who's with him throughout the game is Senu, a falcon, because Horus here is one of the most important gods in the Egyptian mythology. He is the god of kingship and the god of the sky, and he is responsible for a large part of Egyptian mythology. He plays a major role in all things. And if you notice his funny looking circle hat on top of his head, that is actually a combination of the two crowns of Upper and Lower Egypt, because as the god of kingship, he represents the unification of Egypt as a nation, and something that is a big deal in Egyptian history. So we're going to keep on heading up here, run through there, get through some stuff. Now, Donna was asking earlier about him being, see, there he is making reference to how Egypt, even though this is events that are taking thousands of years ago according to us, he's actually digging through his own history in this process. Now, Donna was asking some questions about him as a Magi.
Apparently screwing up the flow here.
No, it's fine, because that was my first thought, is that when you watch this game and you see him being identified as a Magi, you're like, that's weird. What is a Magi? Because, why would that be a part of this game? So when we're looking at it, what it is that a Magi is an ancient order from Egyptian history that is, yes, take all the riches back.
Isn't that how you get cursed, okay?
Yes, Mummy Tomb is cursed. It's okay, he's a Magi. And that's what I'm getting at, is because the Magi are actually an elite order. Now, in the Old Kingdom, which is like ancient Egypt, the Magi refer to a specific tribe of people who lived in a land called Medja. And they were used by the Egyptians as soldiers in their armies. Primarily, they were known for being infantry soldiers who also specialized in information gathering. So they were rewarded for their success in helping the Old Kingdom prosper. And as Egyptian history progresses and they ended up in the Middle Kingdom, we see the Magi becoming less of an ethnic grouping. Like, it no longer was about being in the tribe, and becomes more of an organization that a person could belong in. And their role and responsibility in Egyptian society was to guard areas of interest to the Pharaoh. So we want to think about them as almost like Pharaoh policemen. Their responsibility as Magi was to work in regional offices all throughout the Egyptian kingdom and look out for the Pharaoh's interests.
So when I was playing this game and I openly defaced the Pharaoh statue, it was the Magi that came and killed me and my camel.
Well, now that is actually one of the really cool things about this game, though, because this is where they took a little bit of a creative license, because, they want to make a game that's interesting, and the Magi are super fascinating. But by time you get to this point in Egyptian history, where the Ptolemaic New Kingdom has taken over from the Middle Kingdom, the Magi have ceased to exist. They no longer are functional. They, at some point in the 18th, or not the 18th, at some point in the 20th dynasty of the Middle Kingdom, they are disbanded for reasons we're not really kind of like 100% sure of. But the point is that by this point in time, as I hop, skip, and a jump all over here, there would have been no Magi really left. So what they did, though, is that they are presenting Bayek here sort of as a holdover, somebody who isn't, is still holds on to that ancient office, that title of respect, but is not actually a part of any official organization anymore. All right, so let's go ahead, and we're just going to hurry up and get out of here. Keep this thing moving. Yeah, so that's one of those things where you kind of really do, as you start to dig through the history of Egypt, and just there's so much information available here, you realize,
Light.
ah, of course. So you start to realize that they do take some liberty with historical details and timings. I don't think it's anything that is really super, hi Horace, that's super, breaking of the game. Haha, okay, here we go, right through there. Hey, look, there's somebody down there fighting. We're probably going to have to be down there and go down and visit them.
Soldiers. Of course.
I feel like Bayek can take them.
Where's your Magi friend? Hey, look at me. I'm here.
Get him! Die! Watch out! Fire! Is that you?
Alright, get some space.
It's an ambush!
Oh, really? Hadn't noticed.
There's the Magi.
I mean, it's one dude, guys.
His friend, and I'll take care of the Magi.
Oh, wait, no, he has a friend. I'm still not sure it's an ambush, really.
We'll make sure.
Yep, as I try not to.
So it's kind of cool how they all have hair, because when I think of Egypt, I think of everybody being bald.
And it would not have been.
I mean, that makes sense, but...
And yet, there we are. So here we are introducing ourselves to a friend.
I've made new friends.
He also has new friends.
Setting up an ambush. It's a good thing I came to welcome you, huh? Ah, it's been months. Look at that beard, huh?
It's been nearly a year, my
Get
friend.
out and fight. I am out of practice. In Siwa, everyone defers to the soldiers on pain of death, or worse.
I've killed one of the masked ones. The Heron.
Clearly the man at the beginning of the game.
It's been a long road. You need rest.
No. No rest.
He's grown his hair out.
Not until all the
Looks
nice.
guts lie baking in the sand.
God, I have missed you.
Okay. Alright, let's keep going and see where we are at. Oh, where's he at? Oh, he's around. He's around. I'll come find it.
Oh, there he is.
He's coming as he rolls on in here.
Let us go, Senny.
How have you been holding up since I left?
He seems alright.
It's been difficult, Dayak. Without you, the villagers look to me to keep order. But the soldiers have set up a garrison.
Are these more Horus statues?
No, these actually are the god Ra, the ram god, who is the sun god in the Egyptian pantheon. Kind of interesting because he is both the leader, or sort of superior to Horus, but because he is his place is complicated because he's both older than Horus, but also Horus is the leader and king. So it's interesting how they kind of have to balance those two roles in the Egyptian pantheon.
Well, if I remember correctly from my limited
But do not forget,
flings with Egyptian mythology, their mythology isn't nearly as cut and dry as, say, Roman and Greek mythology. So there's a lot of like
Yeah.
they're sisters, but they're also
Exactly.
married, and
And a lot of that-
possibly dad and son, and
A lot of that has to do with, once again, just the length of time in which we're looking at here. You know, the Greek and Roman cultures, which more people are people are more familiar with that mythology, just as of course, but that is a really small amount of time compared to what Egyptian mythology went through, and how there were several millennia in which these stories were told and retold, and as information has changed and moved along, those stories also change, and it makes it very confusing for us looking from the distance that we are to kind of understand how all these pieces fit together, but they did and made sense to the people in their time. Right now I'm just...
Do my eyes deceive you?
All you have, your farm, your goods, your children, you owe your very lives to His Highness.
So what we got going on here is that I'm hoping to find somebody who can swear at us, because they do have Egyptian profanity in this game, which is kind of funny. Although since I have the subtitles on, it's also not really a secret what exactly they're saying, because they helpfully translate those Egyptian words for us, which is good, because they also sprinkle Egyptian words throughout the conversation of different NPC characters in the game. So you might make sure you stay out of the way of chariots.
oh man,
Now, well, which I didn't want to run on the wall. I also kind of had to, though, because if I ran into him, he would have tried to kill me, and I just want to go home. I don't want to deal with that right now.
they're very aggressive, these NPCs.
Friend of life.
No one in the White Hats can make a move without being questioned, threatened, taxed, or beaten. We all have learned to obey and keep our heads down.
Okay, obviously Ptolemy is not a very popular governor,
Attention.
but as Pharaoh and as sort of the god among them, they don't really have a whole lot of say in what he can do, because, you know, it is God telling them what to do.
Those who disobey obey Meduna.
Meduna.
Priest to the Pharaoh.
Medunaman.
He is the plague on the oasis. As you can see, the soldiers have become more
Catway.
brutal since he arrived. Ah, home. Leave your mount. You will not stray far. Go ahead.
All right.
Bye, Camel.
He's the wanderer. He gets around and around and around.
I feel like I should be able to feed him though. Like I know we can feed Sanu, but I want to feed him.
Mm-hmm.
And I tried to feed him some of those pretty blue flowers, and he was having none of it.
He said, I have things to do and places to go, and you're messing with me. So as we get through here, we're going to be wrapping up here in a couple of minutes. There is so much to do. Like, we have really only just scratched the surface. So I want to leave you with just one last piece of information, something for you to take along the road. The place that we just came from is a ruin known as the Bent Pyramid, which is called a Bent Pyramid because it's one of the earliest pyramids built in the Old Kingdom of Egypt, but they started building it at an angle that was wrong, and they got about halfway up the wall and realized if we keep building it at this angle, it's going to collapse underneath its own weight. So they had to, halfway through the project, change the angle of the walls that they're going at and go ahead and rebuild it. It was built by a man named Sneferu, and you know what? I think he did a pretty good job because it's still around today. So bent or not, it has survived several millennia in the desert.
That's fine, yeah.
Right here?
Yeah.
Okay, guys, so that's going to wrap it up for us today here at High Def History. I hope you enjoyed our first foray into the world of Bayek and all the amazing things that you can find out about Egyptian history from playing this game. Join us next time. We're going to look at a couple of different areas and learn a little bit more about all the craziness that goes on in Egypt, because there is so much out there for us to learn while we're doing this. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to hit a like, share, and or subscribe, because we need you guys out there to keep these things coming. Thanks so much. Have a great time.